Today we're going to talk about the required Nevada disclosures. Stay tuned. There are disclosures in which the Nevada Real Estate Division requires a licensee to use in all real estate transactions, and they're governed by the NRS 645, the Nevada Revised Statutes. The duties owed, supplemental to the duties owed, consent to act, seller's real property disclosure, and the residential disclosure guide are the most commonly used disclosures. In this video, we'll take a look at the duties owed, the supplemental, and the consent to act forms to understand the uses and protection they provide to the consumer. So what is the duties owed by the Nevada Real Estate Licensee form? The duties owed is divided into two parts: the duties that are owed to a customer and the duties that are owed to a client. The duties owed to a customer and every person in the transaction is not to deal with the party or the real estate transaction in a manner which is deceitful, fraudulent, or dishonest. 2, exercise reasonable skill and care with respect to all parties in the real estate transaction. 3, disclose to each party in the real estate transaction as soon as practicable. A, any material and relevant facts, data, or information which the licensee knows or is reasonable or with reasonable care and diligence the licensee should know about the property. B, each source in which the licensee will receive a compensation. And then number 4, abide by all other duties, responsibilities, and obligations required by the licensee in law or regulations. Now, the duties owed to a client is the following. 1, exercise reasonable skill and care to carry out the terms of the brokerage agreement and the licensee's duties. 2, not disclose except to the licensee's broker confidential information relating to the client for 1 year after the revocation or termination of the brokerage agreement, unless the licensee is required to do so by a court order or the client has given written permission. Number 3, seek a sale, purchase option, rental, or lease of real estate property at the price and terms stated in the brokerage agreement or at a price that's acceptable to the client. Number 4, present all offers made to or by the client as soon as practicable, unless the client chooses to waive the duty of the licensee to present all offers and signs a waiver of the duty on a form provided by the division. Disclose to the client material facts of which the licensee has knowledge concerning the real estate transaction. Advise the client to obtain advice from an expert relating to matters which are beyond the expertise of the licensee. And 7, account to the client all monies and property the licensee receives in which a client may have an interest. Supplemental of the licensee's party to the duties owed, a Nevada real estate licensee. This form is used when one or more licensees will have access to the transaction and the client's confidential information. The name and licensing number is disclosed in writing to the client. Consent to act. The consent to act form is used when a licensee is representing both buyer and seller in the same real estate transaction. FYI, all parties must agree without coercion. Even though multiple representation is legal in the state of Nevada, it's greatly frowned upon by the real estate division and requires a skilled and knowledgeable impartial agent to conduct this type of transaction. Many brokers do not allow this type of representation due to the liability it can bring to the brokerage. Buyers and sellers should carefully consider the conflict of interest in multiple representation and what it can create. The old saying, "You cannot serve two masters," comes to mind. An agent must keep all information from both parties confidential for 1 year unless directed by a court order or permission is granted by either both or one of the parties involved. Licensees shall disclose both buyer and seller all known defects of the property and any material facts that must be disclosed by law, and any information the licensee believes to be material facts or might affect the seller or landlord or buyer-tenant decisions with respect to this transaction. I personally do not recommend multiple representation. Be sure to look for the next video about the Nevada real estate required disclosures. We will review the seller's real property disclosure and the residential disclosure guide. Thanks for watching.